The movie is dependent on the genuine entertainer and expert slick person Weiss, who was then renamed Harry Houdini. He became renowned overall for the sensational demonstrations he played out from one side of the planet to the other. His demonstrations were so stunning that he immediately became known as the world's best entertainer, and everybody needed to watch him play out his demonstrations live. As a matter of fact, his name developed so huge that he even acted before probably the main individuals on the planet like us, presidents and different pioneers from a few distinct nations. We start the story by seeing Houdini on top of a scaffold where he will endeavor quite possibly of the most risky demonstration he's consistently performed, and he makes sense of that the vast majority have issues that make them need to get away from their life, yet for him he's dependably the one placed in circumstances where he needs to get away from death and dispatches himself off. The extension we are then returned to 17 years in the past in Ohio 1896, and this is the year when everything changed for Houdini. We see Houdini and his accomplice Bess strolling into a man of honors club, and Bess lets everybody know that they are this evening's diversion. Anyway, Houdini feels awkward acting in such a spot and requests that she drop the show. Bess rejects and lets them know they need to perform here as they need the cash, and didn't have any desire to burn through constantly they put into plan for the show. Before Houdini could say another word, she lets the crowd know that to face Houdini will escape from the container and he'll be bound and locked inside. Yet just after a man snickers and says that the binds have a place with Houdini, so the demonstration is as of now phony. So that's what Houdini says. Assuming anybody here had an alternate arrangement of sleeves, he will utilize them, all things being equal. And right as he said it, the man let him know he's a cop and tossed him his cuffs. This makes Houdini apprehensive, yet he let the cop know that he will in any case proceed with the show. Right then the official puts the cuffs on Houdini. Everyone individuals watching begin to chuckle, and the room is brimming with tension as he pivots and rapidly utilizes skillful deception to eliminate the sleeves and dazzles the cop, and quickly gains regard for being a genuine performer. After this first show, Houdini was presently known as the best slick person America and completed a few shows getting away from cuffs as well as many chains folded over his body. Around evening time, Houdini is with Bess and she lets him know perhaps now is the ideal time to get it together and continue on from doing wizardry, as it's not driving in the correct course, and believes them should head back to making an ordinary showing. Yet Houdini denies and says he won't abandon his fantasy, which is turning into the most popular slick person the world. We then have a flashback of Houdini from when he was more youthful, and we get to see whenever he first at any point saw enchantment, and starting there forward he started to fall head over heels for doing deceptions. He began his own enchanted shows in the city and played out a wide range of stunts and fancies to bring in some additional cash for his family. He used to bring back cash for his mom, which generally filled her heart with joy, and he even performed stunts to her, and this made her glad for her child. His dad anyway was not excessively partial to his child being a performer and didn't comprehend it, and never had faith in his child of turning into an entertainer. So one day Eric chose to leave his old neighborhood and wandered somewhere else with him and his sibling. Both of them performed together and kept on supporting their mom through the small amounts of cash they procured by performing more follows up in the city, and here is where he additionally met Bess, the young lady who might turn into his presentation accomplice, and furthermore his first love. Both of them branched out into the world, visiting a wide range of better places to play out their demonstrations, and this developed their name much greater and turned into the most famous couple in the realm of wizardry. Since Houdini left his sibling run, began to duplicate the exhibitions Houdini was doing to ensure he stayed important and could keep doing wizardry. However, Houdini could have done without the way that his sibling was replicating everything he might do, and chose to perform acts that no other person would have the option to do. And this is the point at which he visited the Johnson District Town Hall in 1896. Houdini consults with the sheriff about securing him and in a jail cell so he could escape from it, yet the sheriff appears to be apprehensive and afterward told Houdini he can't simply secure individuals for not an obvious explanation. Houdini grins and says perhaps this is on the grounds that you're excessively frightened of humiliating yourself in light of the fact that your prison isn't secure sufficient. The sheriff appears to be irritated yet additionally captivated by Houdini. Then, at that point, puts down a bet of 100 to the sheriff and wagers that he can't hold extraordinary Houdini in one of his phones, and to demonstrate Houdini's serious he permits the sheriff to smack him in the gut. Yet Houdini takes it like an old pro because of all the preparation he needs to do to keep his body in shape so he can play out these shocking demonstrations. Houdini couldn't bear the cost of publicizing, and he knew that by insulting the sheriff to permit him to play out the demonstration he would be investigated by the press and would be all around the information, and subsequently driving him to acquiring considerably more openness and popularity all around the country. The sheriff concurs and secures Houdini in one of the phones, and before they leave Bess kisses him, so the sheriff advised him to open his mouth, yet incredibly there was nothing there. They leave the phone block and Houdini starts his departure. He truly gulped the metal Allen key that was given by base, and uses this to eliminate the chains and escapes from the phone. The following day he was all around the papers and was currently known for doing the unthinkable. Everybody needed to see more and recommended he ought to escape from other jail offices in America. Thus he acknowledged what the fans needed to see and decided to escape from much more prominent and safer penitentiaries in the states. His next area was Chicago, Illinois, where the jail watches let him in on that this time it will not be so. Exceptionally simple, as they ensure they secure every one of the detainees genuine safely. As consistently Houdini has a grin all over, and they continue via conveying Houdini to the phone while being covered with thick metal chains generally around his body. They put him in the phone and lock him to the seat, yet to ensure he truly can't get away from the jail official lashed something around his mouth. As they sorted out about the renowned kissing strategy he pulled on the last jail everybody remaining external, the phone was requested to leave the jail block and the gatekeepers locked the phone entryways. Yet after just 5 minutes of leaving him in the phone, Houdini previously got away and was no place to be seen. This left every one of the watchmen enraged, and he was currently gaining appreciation all over the globe and was additionally given the name the Bind Lord and the Breaker of Chains. One day Houdini is looking for things in a store which sells ensembles and different frill he can use for his enchanted shows, and here is where he meets a man called Jim Collins. Jim is a representative of the shop and furthermore one of Houdini's most die-hard followers. Houdini is dazzled by Jim's work as he builds his own hardware to offer to entertainers. Later on, Jim shows Houdini a plan for an enchanted stunt, something that has never been finished before, which is to hang topsy-turvy in a rectangular box or a compartment and get away from the crate without leaving a follow-a stunt that would change his life everlastingly. A couple of days passed and Jim shows Houdini the creation face to face. Interestingly, when Houdini saw it, he quickly needed to give it a shot to perceive how long he could pause his breathing for. So Jim and the partners assist Houdini with getting inside the compartment, and he is then lowered, submerged and locked inside the compartment. Following a couple of moments pass, he is fine. However, at that point he flags them to get him out anyway. The crate was stuck and they couldn't haul him out from the holder. They had to go at utilizing all the labor they could. However, at that point Jim advises them to move to one side as he takes out a hatchet to break the glass and free Houdini. When the glass breaks, Houdini is totally fine and he really began giggling and let him know how wonderful it was. The opportunity has arrived for Houdini to play out the demonstration. Bess and Jim are available in front of an audience close by Houdini. They let everybody know that if there should arise an occurrence of crisis, they will have the chief of the Chicago local group of firefighters prepared with a hatchet if something turns out badly. Following a couple of moments of show, Houdini's lower legs get gotten into the wooden board and they start to put him down into the water and afterward lock the enclosure with latches so he has no place to get away from. Jim teaches the partners to carry over the screen to put before the water tank, and following 2 minutes Houdini was as yet caught inside the holder. Individuals in the group start to yell that there should be something off base, and this makes every other person stressed and implored them to stop the show and make sure that he is okay. After numerous minutes of power and steady commotion from the crowd, they at long last tell the stage laborers and the top of the local group of firefighters to get him out as fast as conceivable with the hatchet. Yet right as he planned to crush the glass, they all notification Houdini is absent from the compartment, and when the person pivots, shockingly it was really Houdini who was holding the hatchet. Passing on, the group confused because of all the press and discuss Houdini spreading all through the country. Soon enough he began being explored by the U.S. Secret Assistance. In the wake of getting the record of Houdini, the head of the Mystery Administration named John Waukee brings up that Houdini is a migrant and communicates in various dialects. His exhibitions have now placed him as quite possibly of the greatest worker in the U.S. and even gets more cash flow than the president. His previous interests the chief, and they start investigating his set of experiences to comprehend all that they can about him and set up a gathering between them. Soon thereafter Houdini meets with a man called Sir William Melville, the head of the English Mystery Administration, and E5. He lets Houdini know that at first Houdini was considered to be a danger to joined realm and different nations, yet subsequent to talking he let Houdini know that he has reconsidered his visa for him, so rather than being a settler his place of birth is presently the US of America, and says he was brought into the world in Wisconsin. Houdini says thanks to William, and after William lets Houdini know that due to his abilities and skill Houdini would be exceptionally valuable to them, as Houdini can draw near to probably the main individuals on the planet and legislatures who are foes of the unified realm and US. After 5 sold-out shows in Berlin, the Kaiser family mentioned a confidential show from the incomparable Houdini himself, yet they were not delighted about the presentation hitherto. So then, at that point, Houdini mentioned to Jim that they need to perform something unbelievable to prevail upon them and dazzle them, very much like the Mystery Administration needed. So Houdini will currently endeavor the projectile catch stunt. Houdini advises them to pick their best marksman and advised them to test the weapon. He gets the bullseye first time and Houdini lets the marksman know that he can entrust him with his life after Houdini remains before the dead center and the sharpshooter additionally gets in place. He yells out to the shooter to terminate the fire, yet the sharpshooter wavers and doesn't have any desire to kill Houdini. Subsequent to yelling commonly to terminate the shot, he ultimately takes it, and incredibly Houdini gets the slug and the Kaiser stands up in commendation for the entertainer. It was uncovered that Houdini had Jim make an attractive bar that they used to embed the slug and utilize this to bring the slug back out, and Houdini was holding it this entire time. The following day in Hungary, Houdini meets a man called Riley. Houdini educates Riley regarding the Kaiser's arrangements to construct 7 ships and different insider facts he heard while being around the Kaiser's family. Riley lets Houdini know how intrigued he is by the work and data he has had the option to tell them, and said he will tell William about the subtleties. After Riley lets Houdini know that William has a gift for him, a little red book about Russian language structure, and Riley sets him on the following mission. In the wake of talking, Houdini returns to his room and him and Best hang out at the lodging, yet out of nowhere he gets a thump at the entryway. The room administration gives him a note in which he is frightened by. He tells Base that he's working for certain notable individuals and that she can't see anybody about what's happening. Just after Houdini goes to Moscow, where he performs to a renowned family who are likewise the heads of Russia. Houdini starts his presentation before the family and let them know all to record a wish on a piece of paper, and he will make any of these desires materialize. So in the wake of composing the wish, it gets put inside the container, and he advised the girl to pick one of the desires. Subsequent to taking a gander at their message down, he let them know he can't understand Russian and inquired as to whether they could make an interpretation of it to him. Once they make an interpretation of it, she starts to snicker and says that the wish is tragically difficult to do. He asks her what it is, and she said somebody has wished to hear the Kremlin chimes ring again. The ringers haven't been rung for over 100 years, and they continue to let him know that this one is 100. Unimaginable. He opens the window and begins to play out the stunt. He takes a tissue and a touch of fabric and puts the fabric inside the hanky, and he hauls it out. It transforms into a piece of rope, and afterward asks the stupendous Duchess Anastasia to pull the rope, and each time she pulls, the ringers start to ring. They couldn't accept the obvious reality and bowed on the floor for taking their breath away with something they considered to be unthinkable. Houdini visits William back in London, and Houdini lets him know all that the Russians really depend on and their arrangements. William lets him know what a brilliant task he's finished and the way that he's intrigued that he got the Kremlin chimes to ring, and ask him how he done it. He then, at that point, uncovers to William that he had proactively recorded his own desire on the bits of paper, which is to ring the Kremlin chime. So when he requested that the little girl pick a wish, he basically supplanted it with his own one that he had previously recorded in Russian. After that, he told the crowd he can't understand Russian, so he had the spouse recited it to him. In the wake of reciting it without holding back to everybody, Houdini obviously definitely understood what it was and had his collaborator Jim previously posted up in a pinnacle with an expert rifleman rifle, and each time she pulls the rope he would shoot the Kremlin ringer to pull off the stunt. He then, at that point, enlightens him concerning the German envoy and requests that he recover private data about the plans of Germany. Houdini has an arrangement to recover the data with another exhibition utilizing a safe. Jim advises the crowd that Houdini will just have 10 minutes of breathing time inside the safe, and he really wants to break free, yet Houdini wasn't inside the safe, and when the demonstration started he went to the top of the structure and downsized the side of the structure to enter the minister's office. Once inside, he found the safe containing the classified data, yet minutes after the fact he heard the diplomat returning to the workplace, so he chooses to conceal inside the safe. The representative enters the workplace to invest energy with the young lady, yet at the same time he sees that the safe isn't as far as possible shot. He then shuts the protected, leaving Houdini inside. Despite the fact that Houdini is an expert slick person, his stunts have been decisively determined to pull him off, and Houdini has never been inside a genuine safe, particularly one which is essentially as secure as this one, passing on him with just minutes to escape. Yet this time it's for genuine. His accomplice Jim slows down time for the crowd and makes everybody in the group stress by saying he's stuck inside or something probably turned out badly, yet Houdini is truly attempting to escape. A genuine protected. As they talk, he stresses briefly, then lets himself know that he's awesome at what he does and starts to recall the number of locks he that heard when he shut the protected. After that, he utilizes his devices to pick the lock and escapes without a moment to spare as Jim opens the protected, uncovering that inside from the beginning was his 10-year commemoration gift to his significant other. He then, at that point, gives the reports to William and goes to the stage, yet everybody is stunned when Houdini is remaining at the rear of the crowd and lets his significant other know that he is so glad to be her significant other in the wake of playing out the demonstration. Harry gets into a contention with his significant other base as she enlightens him that this was never concerning her commemoration and everything unquestionably revolves around him and how he just thinks often about engaging a group of people after him and his better half drop out. Houdini winds up in a seemingly impossible situation and winds up in a circumstance in his life which interestingly, he can't escape the following day. He then, at that point, winds up improving, and while opening a window he thinks about the ideal method for improving things with bass and to raise his vocation considerably further when he detects a flying versatile overhead which will turn into the most popular demonstration he will act in his life yet. That is section 1 of Houdini.